Right, ready for another deep dive. Today we're taking on this video essay, pretty interesting one, called The Authentic Observer, The Attack on Femininity in Fiction, Masculine Women, and Disempowered Men.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it is, right? So we're going to kind of unpack all that, see how femininity and masculinity like play out in all the stories we love.
Yeah, and especially those badass chick characters.
Yeah, and you know those guys they always seem to be with, like the not-so-competent guys. Are these portrayals truly empowering, though? Or could they actually be sending some, like, unintended messages?
Well, I think that's kind of the core of what this video is trying to figure out. Like, it really digs into two sort of common character types you see in fiction. It's like almost two sides of the same coin, the wet lettuce and the badass chick.
Okay, love those terms.
Yeah, right.
So, like, paint us a picture here. Give us an example.
Okay, well, to set the stage, think Bella Swan, Twilight.
Ah, yeah.
The video uses her as, like, the ultimate wet lettuce, right?
Yeah.
Passive, helpless, her entire world revolves around this guy. Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Selena Sardothian.
Oh, yeah, Throne of Glass.
Throne of Glass, exactly.
Yep.
She's all physical strength, emotionally guarded, and ready to, take down anybody who gets in her way. And the video points out that there's tons of characters like her in young adult fiction. The Covenant series, Daughter of the Pirate King, and the Shadowhunter Chronicles, just to name a few.
Yeah, there are so many. But is this badass chick thing really as empowering as it seems on the surface?
Yeah, well, that's where the video's critique gets really, I think, interesting. One of the most, compelling points it makes is about the biological realities of strength. Like, it cites research showing that women generally have 40% less upper body strength than men. And to, like, really drive this point home, the video talks about Fallon Fox.
Who's Fallon Fox? So Fallon Fox is a transgender MMA fighter, and she completely, like, overpowered her opponent, Tamika Brent, who was a very strong, female fighter. It was just, like, impossible to ignore the difference in their strength, which, obviously is biologically influenced.
That's a crazy example. So if a writer wants to create this image of a woman who can, physically dominate men, what has to happen?
Well, the video argues that a lot of times the male characters end up getting the short end of the stick.
Okay. They
become weaker, less competent.
I see.
Almost like their abilities are sacrificed to make the female character seem stronger by comparison. It's as if female power can only exist in this vacuum where men are, diminished.
Right.
And a great example of this is Ron Weasley in the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, interesting.
He's so much more intelligent and capable in the books.
Yeah.
But, on screen, he's often just reduced to, like, comic relief.
Right.
And some of his best moments are actually given to Hermione.
Oh, wow.
To make her seem even more brilliant.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like the filmmakers were afraid to let Ron shine.
Yeah.
Because it might overshadow Hermione. And I bet we see that kind of dynamic in other stories too, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's that Doctor Who scene with Robin Hood and Clara.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The men are acting like these squabbling children. They can't resolve, a simple conflict. And Clara has to come in and, she's the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And in Daughter of the Pirate King, a lot of the male characters, they're either, like, easily outsmarted fools or, these one-dimensional brutes, which doesn't make for a very nuanced or believable story.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So it seems like the problem isn't necessarily having these strong female characters. It's more the way those characters are often written at the expense of the men around them.
Right, exactly.
But this video doesn't stop there. It also critiques this idea that to be a badass always has to mean rejecting, like, traditional feminine quality.
Right, like the focus on just physical prowess and emotional stoicism. It kind of suggests that vulnerability, nurturing, compassion, these are weaknesses.
No.
But the video makes this compelling counter-argument by looking at some female characters who embody both strength and those more, like, traditional feminine traits.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. Who does the video hold up as a good model for this kind of, like, balanced strength?
Well, one example is Lyra Belacqua.
Oh, from His Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials, yeah. She's independent, she's brave, she goes on these incredible adventures, but her vulnerability and her capacity for compassion, those are really at the heart of what makes her so powerful. Think about how deeply connected she is to her demon.
Right.
That wouldn't be possible without her being willing to be open and vulnerable. And her fierceness, her determination to, fight for what's right, often that comes from a place of love, a desire to protect the people she cares about.
That's a great way to look at her character. It's not just about, like, rejecting those feminine qualities. It's how those qualities actually make her strong and drive her actions. I bet there are other examples like this, right?
Yeah.
Characters who show that there's more than one way to be strong.
Oh, for sure. The video also brings up Vivienne Rocher from the movie Chocolat.
Oh, yeah, I love that look.
She doesn't rely on force or aggression, but rather she uses her warmth and understanding and even a little bit of cleverness to bring positive change to this very rigid and closed-minded community. Her strength comes from her ability to connect with people. And this brings up another really important point that the video emphasizes, the idea that suppressing either masculinity or femininity, that can have some negative consequences.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, the video actually quotes this, saying, emotions suppressed become negative. And it connects this to the idea that trying to deny or suppress parts of ourselves, whether it's our, masculinity or femininity, can lead to those qualities becoming, twisted or even toxic. And it's like this whole thing, it's not just about how women are portrayed. The video also points out that this whole badass chick thing often comes with this reluctance to show strong, positive masculinity in men.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like there's this fear of portraying men as competent and masculine without making them the bad guy or making them seem less manly.
Right, exactly. And the video says there's this assumption that, healthy masculinity is somehow threatening or problematic. So writers kind of shy away from it. But, then it shows some really good examples of male characters who are strong and good, proving that, it can be done.
Give me some examples. Who does the video hold up as a model for this kind of well-rounded masculinity?
Well, one is Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. He's a really decisive leader, incredibly capable, in this dangerous post-apocalyptic world. But he's also, really compassionate.
Yeah.
And fiercely protective. He doesn't have to, sacrifice his humanity to be strong and effective.
Yeah, he's a great example. And it's interesting how the video contrasts characters like Rick with the ones we see in books like Daughter of the Pirate King, where, as we were saying, the men are either incompetent or brutes.
It's like there's no in-between.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not even that it makes the female characters look stronger. It just makes everybody seem kind of less believable and more one-dimensional.
Yeah, I agree.
And it reinforces those limited ideas of what it means to be a man or a woman. And I think one of the most powerful points the video makes is that this whole badass chick trope, it sacrifices character development for the sake of making a point.
Yeah, it's like some of these characters are more worried about showing they can, fight like a man than they are about just being a well-rounded person.
Right.
With their own, strengths and flaws.
Yeah, they end up feeling like symbols instead of people.
Right.
And, the video brings up Selena Sardathian again to kind of illustrate this. It argues that, even though she's got these incredible fighting skills and, surface level femininity, like her love for dresses and things, she just lacks depth.
Yeah.
Genuine warmth.
And to contrast this, the video looks at Buffy.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's also incredibly strong. She slays vampires with the best of them, but she never loses touch with her feminine side, right?
Yeah.
She's tough, but she's also vulnerable, compassionate, capable of deep, meaningful connections.
That's such a key difference. It's not that she's, denying that she has physical strength. It's that she recognizes that strength can be a lot of different things, including being, vulnerable and emotionally open.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another character the video talks about, Lee Scoresby from his Dark Materials. He's described as the biggest sweetheart in the trilogy. And he's tough, he's adventurous, he's a skilled fighter, but he's also kind, gentle, and so loyal to his friends. He really embodies that masculinity that's both strong and sensitive.
Yeah. Love that example. Speaking of characters who defy expectations, the video actually brings up Lady Macbeth.
Oh, interesting.
As a counterpoint to that idea
Yeah.
that strength always has to be physical.
Right.
Because she's undoubtedly powerful and dangerous.
She is.
Even though she's not, physically fighting, She manipulates, she schemes, she drives her husband to murder, and she does it all without, ever picking up a sword.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that strength can be very subtle, and it can look a lot of different ways.
It makes you wonder why we're so quick to connect violence and aggression with strength, especially for female characters. The video kind of challenges that directly,
It does. It points out that we wouldn't necessarily celebrate those qualities in a man, so why do we applaud them in women? It's like, we think for a woman to be strong, she has to act like a man, which is a pretty messed up message.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think this all goes back to the video's main point, right?
Yeah.
We need to broaden our understanding of what it means to be strong and powerful, and that goes for all genders.
Totally. It's about getting away from those those narrow definitions and embracing a more complete view of strength. One that recognizes that masculine and feminine qualities are both valuable. The video says over and over again, vulnerability is not weakness, it's actually a source of strength. And it uses Lyra Belacqua as a perfect example.
Yes, Lyra's fierce and independent, but her willingness to feel things deeply, to be open and vulnerable, that's a huge part of what makes her so compelling. It's what allows her to connect so deeply with her demon and fight so passionately for what she believes in. And as you said earlier, Vianne Roche's strength is in her warmth and empathy and her ability to connect with people.
Right. And let's not forget Ellen Carr, whose creative spirit and nurturing nature allow her to, make a difference in the world. These characters show how strength can take many forms. And those traditional feminine qualities, they're just as valuable as the masculine ones.
It's not about like one versus the other,
Right.
It's about understanding that we need both to create a balanced and harmonious world.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a competition. The video says that men and women throughout history have evolved to play different but equally important roles, and trying to erase those differences or force everybody into the same mold, it's just harmful.
It is. It's a call for understanding, isn't it? Recognizing that diversity is a strength, not a weakness.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that true equality doesn't mean everyone has to be the same, but that everyone has a chance to be their authentic selves.
Yeah, to contribute their own unique strengths to the world.
Yeah.
It's a powerful message. And I think it's so relevant right now, when we're constantly being told what it means to be a man or a woman. And the video takes it even further. It explores how suppressing both masculine and feminine qualities can have these like really negative consequences. It's like we're always being told to fit in these little boxes, masculine or feminine. And if you step outside at all, you're wrong or not enough.
Yeah, and all that pressure to conform can be really damaging, It leads to all this shame and feeling like you're not good enough. And you can even end up, disconnected from who you really are.
Yeah.
It's like we've forgotten that being human, it's this whole spectrum of qualities, right? A mix of the masculine and the feminine that makes each of us, unique.
It really is. And what I like about this video essay, it's this call to be your true self. Like it encourages us to just express, the full range of who we are, no fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's saying that true strength, it's not about hiding your vulnerabilities or trying to fit yourself into some stereotype. It's about embracing every part of yourself, the masculine and the feminine. And this goes beyond just how we see ourselves. It's about how we relate to other people.
Oh, that's interesting.
When we accept and appreciate that whole spectrum of human qualities in ourselves, we can embrace those same qualities in the people around us, men, women, whoever.
It's about getting away from that whole like battle of the sexes thing.
Right.
And recognizing that we're stronger together. Like our differences, that's what makes us, interesting and resilient.
Absolutely. We need that, assertiveness and focus, the kind of, more masculine side. But we also need that empathy, that nurturing energy, the feminine. It's not one dominating the other. It's the balance, right?
Yeah.
That creates that harmony within ourselves and in how we interact with the world.
I like that. It's a good way to put it. This whole deep dive has really gotten me thinking about my own ideas, about strength, about gender, about, the messages we're taking in from the stories we watch and read.
Right.
It's easy to not even realize how these tropes are shaping, how we understand ourselves and the world.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call. We have a choice, We can choose which stories we let influence us, and we can create new ones that celebrate, the whole human experience.
Yeah, we have the power to find that balance within ourselves, to really see and honor both our masculine and feminine qualities, and realize that they're not these opposing forces. They're part of what makes us whole.
That's a great point. And maybe that's the big takeaway, the thing we want people to think about. If too much masculinity or too much femininity can each be a bad thing, how do we find that balance in our lives, in our relationships? How do we embrace, the full spectrum of who we are? And how can we work together to create a world that celebrates all that, the unique gifts of both men and women?
That is a great question. And I hope it's a conversation we can all keep having, personally and as a society. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing, all of it, the whole beautiful, complex thing that is being human.